Okay. Hi, I'm Blake Cabot. I am the owner of FacePaintcom. And we have today a really interesting guy who came to me through, I think, Beth McKinney, because you guys live in Chicago near each other, right? And Eric does it all. He does it all. He does parties, he does airbrushing, he does face painting, balloons. And today's topic is going to be something that's really different for us. It's going to be airbrushing T-shirts, because this is something which you can do not near somebody, which in this COVID, I don't know, purgatory, I think is probably the right word. This is a great thing to do to earn a little extra income. And since a lot of you guys do airbrushing, I figured this might be worthwhile. So with that, I will hand it over to Eric.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Let's switch over real quick, move back. Cool. My name is Eric Stiles. I am a face painter, balloon twister, puppeteer, paint and sip party instructor. Love to do a bunch of different things. Each thing I do is a different different level of interactivity and interaction with people. And I just love people and love making sure that they have a great time. So just like Blake said, grab my notes on make sure I stay on track. Just like Blake said, I'm going to talk about how to do airbrush T-shirts for parties, and like I said, in a way to just another faster way to kind of do something while COVID is going on, and you don't have to have everybody all around you or whatever. You can actually just have a mom make a list of the kids' names at a party, and you can just kind of go for it and put together goodie bags and maybe the T-shirts and whatever like that as they have it. But first of all, let me start and say, I want to thank Blake for allowing me the opportunity to be on this platform to speak to you guys about this. I truly relish it. It's my first opportunity. So I'm a little nervous, so bear with me.
Don't be nervous, man. This isn't that group. I got to tell you, we've never had anybody get cranky on this thing. And in the great words of Kathy Vergara, even if you screw up face painting, it's art.
Okay, so no hecklers, nothing like that.
No. Everybody's really... everybody wants to see this. We got a bunch of people on Facebook Live. You guys have any comments or questions for me, just post them and I will ask Eric. Okay. No, don't worry, man. We're all good.
Cool. Second, I want to make sure I thank all my face painting sisters and brothers. Each one of you guys have given me something to get me to this point where I'm actually able to teach a class. So I'm very grateful to everybody who's mentored and helped me in any way, shape, form, or fashion to get here. So, I'm going to talk about a couple of things in the class. I'm going to kind of break it down. I won't get to actually airbrushing T-shirts to kind of around the middle of the class, because there's kind of a bunch of things we want to go over to make sure that you guys are up to speed about what you need for airbrush party, what you need for to start doing T-shirts and stuff like that. So the first thing I want to talk about is your easel. This is my easel over here, very sturdy aluminum. Strong easel. You don't want to start doing T-shirts and you got the very, very flimsy little wood easel. You want to have something that's kind of strong. Sometimes you're outside and you get a good gust of wind, and it can kind of move. So you want to make sure you got something that's got a little bit of weight to a little bit of girth to it, so it doesn't blow away in strong wind or tip over, whatever. Because sometimes you want to put your airbrushes on your little rail system right here. So we want to make sure it's nice and strong for that. So that's number one.
We got a lot of people from all over the world. We got UK, Mexico, Argentina. It's everywhere, man. We're worldwide.
Well, I just want to tell you, I just spoke with someone just this past week. I referred this easel to her. Now, normally it's like $100 at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. They had it on sale for like $50, and that's what I got it for. They had like a 50% off. So maybe if you, like I said, you're ready to jump in and start getting some equipment or whatever, definitely a good easel is like number one, first and primary. Number two, we're going to talk about airbrushes. So,
hey, Zuri. Hey, Sally Ann. Pam.
There's so many different types of airbrushes that a person can get. But when it comes to doing T-shirts, I definitely recommend that you use what's called a double action airbrush. Now with a double action airbrush, it has a little, the trigger up top. And what the trigger does is it rocks back and forth to adjust the amount of paint that's coming out. So when you push down, air comes out. When you push back, more paint comes out. So a little bit of paint, a little bit more paint, a lot of paint comes out as you rock back and forth. The reason I like it is because it gives you that much control right here. You don't have to adjust or do anything extra to get any extra paint. So if you want to make a wide spray, all you have to do is push the trigger all the way back, go around. You got a big wide spray of a circle. Mm-hmm. And if you want to be like very thin, like a pencil point, all you got to do is bring the trigger back just a little bit. It's going to give you a very fine, very fine line. So you got all that control in this airbrush, right? And double action airbrush. Now, this particular airbrush is called a Vega 2000. This is like my baby. Like
and who makes it?
Badger or Thayer Chandler, I believe. This airbrush, like I say, I started out airbrushing with this many years ago, and I just love the brand. Now, one thing I do want to say, there are so many different types of airbrush for people. Like if you have like shorter, like stubbier hands, like maybe your fingers are a little bit thicker, maybe your hands are small, and maybe you want to try out what they call a pache VL. It's like a thicker, so that the body of it is a little bit thicker, so it has a little bit more like girth to it. You can wrap your fingers around it. This one is a little bit more like a pencil, and it's called a siphon feed airbrush. So what happens is you take your paint, and this little connection right here is where your paint joins in, and the paint. The tube has the paint bottle has like a little tube where, as you're spraying, the air sprays out, and the air forces the paint up the tube and out the tube, and that's how you kind of spray with it. So this is called a siphon feed. They also have a different kind of airbrush called a gravity feed, and what a gravity feed does. You're fighting with me today. So they have a different kind of airbrush called a gravity feed. I just don't have one with me today, but I don't recommend you start doing t-shirts with what's called a gravity feed airbrush. Gravity feed airbrush has like a little cup right on top of it. And in this cup, you pour your paint into there. So you're able to change colors a little bit faster, but in the midst of changing colors, you also got to kind of clean it out. So if you're going to go from yellow to red, you're going to need to, or from red to yellow, you're going to need to clean it out. So it kind of to me is kind of like shooting yourself in the foot, kind of wasting time and a heck of a lot more airbrush cleaner and stuff like that. But it serves its purpose, but I would say not for t-shirts. And like I say, sometimes when you got people around, you having that gravity feed, if you knock the airbrush over, that paint's going to chuck right out the side of it, and that's just not going to be a great party. So I would recommend you not do it, at least if you do practice with it or whatever like that a lot. But for doing t-shirts, I recommend that you get a siphon feed airbrush. There's other kind of airbrushes. Some people have what's called the 0G airbrush. And essentially what that is it's an airbrush where, unlike this one, this is also what they call an internal mix. So the paint goes up inside of the airbrush, mixes with the air and sprays out. With the 0G airbrush, it's called an external mix. So when you connect the paint to it, everything happens outside of it. So as the air is spraying, it kind of sucks the paint outside. So it's a little bit less to clean as far as internally, like an airbrush like this one. Once we're done, party, you're gonna need to kind of take it apart, clean it out really good to make sure everything is great so that you're ready to go for the next party, next event or whatever like that. I don't recommend like a 0G airbrush. You can check on it, look it up when you get a moment for doing t-shirts, because you with those 0G airbrushes, you don't have the control to go from thin to thick as you do with a double action airbrush. So if you have any further questions about that, like I say, we got a Q&A at the end of the class or whatever, or you can inbox me personally. I can answer a couple questions about that. But double action airbrush is really great. No, another quick point I want to bring out about an airbrush. They have used airbrushes. People stop airbrushing. They get out the game and they sell everything on eBay. So typically brand new, this airbrush may cost me about $100. I go on eBay, find a used one and get one for like $30. I know so much about them that if they do send it something wrong or something missing, I know exactly what to get. So I do recommend right off the bat, buy a new airbrush, buy a new one, so where you can get used to adjusting the parts and stuff like that. And if you do order, you can save a heck of a lot of money, you know, just buying something used. But it's like I said, I got like 9 of them, and like I said, I didn't spend no more like $30, $40, $50 at any given point on the airbrush. So next point I want to talk about is your airbrush holder. Let me take this off real quick.
No, don't be worried. They're not shy in asking questions.
Oh, good. Don't be shy about asking questions. So
I think right now they're just listening.
This is an airbrush holder. And I actually got this airbrush holder from FacePaintcom. So they do have this wonderful, I think it's 8 airbrush holder. I think it was like around $50-something or whatever at any given point. But it's wonderful. It's very thin. It's lightweight. It holds your airbrushes really great. And it comes with a clamp. So you can clamp it on different thickness. So typically when you go to a party, they may have a thin table, they may have a thick table, but this clamp will kind of adjust at different points. So you can adjust it and it clamps down to your table and it holds your airbrushes wonderfully. I mean, if you ever have a need to get more than 8 airbrushes, I mean, I don't, but you know, you can definitely buy more than one. And it's like I say, I put it right in my bag. It's very thin. It's not bulky. It does trick all the time. So FacePaint.com, like I say, Blake can tell you more about what the prices are and stuff like that, but it's really cool.
Yeah. Thanks for the plug.
Let me clamp this back down real quick, and then we'll talk about the next thing.
Now, Eric, when should I tell you that you need to hurry up?
Hurry up?
Yeah.
When I'm 40 minutes in, because the last part is the quickest, easiest part. Airbrush holder, I want to talk about a manifold. Manifold and hoses. So manifold is something that you can use to connect multiple airbrushes to your compressor. So you can connect your red, your blue, your black, whatever. Each one of these connections is called a quick connect. You can get these, typically they don't really sell them with the manifold. You may have to go to like your hardware store to get them. They're very common in your air compressor section. They have a male and a female unit, which just kind of be plugged right in real quickly, real easily. Other than that, you have to kind of screw each one of the fittings in for each airbrush or whatever at any given moment. This just makes it real easy. When you're ready to start, ready to go, pops in, pops right out. Each one of your colors ready to go. So again, manifold. They have different numbers of inputs on there, so you can go 5 like this one. They have some that have 8. They have some. Let me show you another one that I got. This is one that I got from a friend, and it's got like about it's
a lot.
Yeah, got about 8 or 9 of them on there. So at any given moment, you don't have to use all of them, but you know, at a moment which you never know. You never know what happens. You go on a gig and something happens to your hose, a kid step on it, or you sit on it with the chair and now it's no good, so you have to quickly do another one or whatever. So we got that. So we got manifolds out the way. Let's talk about a compressor real quick. So when I was young in the game, I had this big loud compressor that I brought to an event. It was just super loud. So quiet is the game. I got this one from a hardware store. The name of this one's called California Air Tools. It's a quiet compressor.
Yeah.
What it has what's called a regulator and a gauge right here that shows you the amount of pressure that's building up. Typically, I like to get between like 40, 60 PSI when I'm airbrushing T-shirts. So very quiet. You can stick it like under your table. And if the DJ is going, it's hardly noticeable, you know, that you don't have like the super monstrous loud compressor going on, but you're still able to do what you need to do for your party. So quiet compressor. I do not recommend you get a small compressor. Sometimes Pache makes like these little blue ones or little gray ones. The reason being is that depending on how long you're going to be in a party, they tend to build up a lot of moisture. As the air compressor goes on, it gets hot. And as it gets hot, it's drawing water out of the air and kind of feeding that back up the airbrush. So what happens is in the line and the holes, all that air is going to build up. And acrylic paint doesn't like water. Neither does it airbrush paint or whatever like that for skin or body paint. So that water is actually going to fight the acrylic, and so it's going to start sputtering and doing all this weird stuff that we don't really need to happen. So I do recommend you get a larger, just slightly larger compressor if you're going to be doing a bit more work. But for little stuff, maybe here or there, yeah, they're cheap. They're ready to go. You can get it at Harbor Freight or wherever you want to. They also sell compressors on FacePaintcom. So
we do. We sell them.
Yeah. So another fabulous thing that you want to get is called a moisture trap. So this you can grab at the hardware store too. I don't know if they sell it in the stores, but moisture traps are really great because as your compressor is going on for a while, this kind of helps to fight to pull some of that moisture out of the compressor before it sends it up back through your hoses to the airbrush to mess things up. So it has like a little pressure gauge. I don't know if you can kind of see, little pressure release here where you can kind of, when you
Oh. Eric, I think you muted. Eric, I can't hear you. Eric? Oh boy. Eric, I can't hear you at all. There you are.
I did a party.
Good.
I did a party about a year ago for a Jewish friend of mine. She invited me to come do some airbrush sweatshirts for like a camp or whatever like that. And I did not have a pad. And so little kids are coming up to me and they're telling me their name. And she says, yeah, my name is Sarah. So I'm like, okay, ready, S-H-A-R. No, that's not my name. Like, what do you mean? Sarah? You said, no, I got 2 V's in my name, S-H-A-V-V-A-R-S. Like it's some stuff I never heard before. So it just kind of taught me like, hey, depending on what setting, just had a kid or whomever write the people's name down, because doing name design is kind of a claim to fame. So have a pad, a couple pens, have the kids, mom, or whatever, write their names down, and everything is great. Another quick thing I want to talk about is T-shirt boards. T-shirt boards are something that actually you can make yourself. This is called called a hardboard. You grab this from your hardware store, like in the lumber section. It's like particle board. They probably about maybe almost a little less than 1/4 of an inch thick. Only thing we do is you take a T-shirt and we kind of measure it to the size. You get what's called a jigsaw. You just run around the side to the thickness. So the size for like a small shirt, a medium shirt, large shirt, whichever one you feel like you need. But I always bring a couple of them at an event, so you have to kind of really quickly change. And then you get like a little sander and just go around the edges, make sure they're nice and smooth, and it's perfect. But the boards are like 4 foot by 8 foot, so you can probably get about 3 of these or so out of a board for like maybe $7-8. So if you know anybody that's handy that has like a little small jigsaw that you can kind of cut around in the sander, you got 3 of them for like $8. We got those. T-shirts.
So where do you get your T-shirts?
So it's a different thing. So kind of if the mom, when I'm quoting the price for the mom, is definitely a point to kind of bring up as to who's going to be responsible for getting the T-shirts. There is a great place called S&S Activewear. I believe they're based in Illinois, like Bolingbrook or whatever like that. But they're aware wholesale, so you can get different brands of T-shirts for very, very reasonable prices. Like I even get like Bella and Canvas T-shirts, which are very, very nice quality shirts. They think they run like about $3 a piece, and you can get things like shirts like Gildan or whatever like that, and it'll be less and less and less depending on what brand of T-shirts you get. But I do recommend, I have just some Hanes T-shirts for today's class. So it's just something I got from a pack. But you can get your T-shirts from a wholesale place or wherever you can get the best deal on your T-shirts.
And how cheap are the cheapest T-shirts?
Some people get them from Michael's or Hobby Lobby, maybe like around $3 a piece. But you could do a little bit better if you get them wholesale or whatever. So if you're in bulk, you can definitely do better.
Okay.
So I like to do only on white shirts. Typically, you're going to get people that's going to request you do color shirts or whatever like that. It's a little bit more difficult trying to make color pop out on darker colored T-shirts because you have to do kind of like a white underbase and then kind of put the colors on top of there. So it's a little bit harder work. So if you can, try to see if you can steer the mom toward a lighter color like a yellow or white or something very light. But 100% cotton T-shirts are the best because they're gonna wick up that paint real quick. You don't want to try to experiment on some poly blend or whatever like that, something that you really haven't had a chance to work on or work with. But cotton is always great. It's a claim to fame. So some white T-shirts, you get them relatively cheap if you have a wholesale shop. Just type in on Google, type in wholesale T-shirts, and 9 times out of 10 you might find one that's not even too far away from where you stay. So we got that. Got the T-shirts out of the way. And I'm going to show you my practice board, and we're going to go ahead and dive into some practice things. Got a couple of things. Really important. When you airbrush some T-shirts, make sure you have a couple tools with you. I got a couple little small wrenches I bring with me because sometimes you got to change your air holes or whatever like that. But just real teeny ones. You don't need to get the big Super Plumber, Super Mario Brother kind or whatever. But like little. Like I said, this isn't really even bigger than my hand. Just like 1 or 2 of those. I always carry 2. You need a spray container. So it'd be a bad habit when you want to clean your airbrush to start spraying that mess in the air and everybody coughing around you or seeing vapors in the air. What you do is you take it and you spray your airbrush, your excess colors with your cleaner in here. And what it'll do is it'll prevent it from kind of going out and smelling up the whole air or whatever. So always carry you a nice little spray cleaner bottle. So that stuff.
Yeah, because I've seen airbrushing before. I mean, I've seen Athena did a bunch of it for some stuff that she did for me, Athena Z. And the thing that you do spend a lot of time with airbrushing, this isn't really known, is that you spend a lot of time cleaning it. Yeah.
So that's a whole nother class, Blake. I mean, we could really spend another 40 minutes just talking about how to diagnose and troubleshoot airbrushing. So that's why when I do what I do, I got extra parts. Got a bunch of extra parts, extra airbrushes. Because sometimes when one clogs up, if you can't really figure out what it is right away, hey, pop that bad boy right off the quick connect, chunk it in there, grab you another one, pop it on the line, and then you got another one ready to go. Like I said, and if you're grabbing airbrushes, relatively cheap, used, whatever, when you're at that point, you can have a couple of them ready to go, ready to do whatever. But I would say never to try to do an airbrush gig with like 1 or 2 airbrushes. It's like kind of shooting yourself in the foot if something does happen. But yeah, whole nother class when we would talk about
cleaning,
diagnosing some of the problems that could occur when just dealing with the airbrush. But yes, you can. You can spend quite a minute, but if you have more than one, it's something you can jump real quickly, change out, and get you another one right ready to go.
Carolyn Ochoa said she could use a troubleshooting class, so maybe one day we'll do one.
Yeah, definitely. We because like I said, that's a whole nother hour in and of itself, talking about type of airbrush, how to clean it, how the things that happen when you're airbrushing and why and how it affects it, so that you can kind of know, hey, it's not something that's clogged in the line. It's just the little bit of paint that builds up on the tip that you need to clean off, and then you're ready to go again. Or there's a number, so many different things that could actually occur that would be the reason for why your airbrush isn't functioning right. And like I say, we can go through about how to diagnose that and how to be ready to go. And
don't worry, we got it.
Okay. Next thing we're going to talk about is paint. Paint's important. They actually have paint specifically for airbrushing. This isn't the only company that you can use, but this is an acrylic paint by a company called Createx. They sell both opaque type of paint and also transparent. When you're doing t-shirts and you're starting out, I would recommend that you use opaque more so than transparent paint. Colors will stand out brighter, everything. It's just better for now. And when you find out how to use it and what to do with transparent paint, how to make certain things, how to make it work, then grab this one. But there is a difference. So make sure you look for opaque airbrush paint if you are going to start out. Now, these are kind of expensive kind of to start out. I think this 16-ounce bottle probably ran me about, I don't know, 14, 19 bucks or something like that. But it's one jar of black paint. So it can be a little bit pricey, but on the flip side of that is you can also go to your local craft store and grab something like these style of acrylic paint. So this one may have cost me like $1 for yellow paint. You can get all the different colors. The only thing that's different, the only thing about this one in comparison to the airbrush paint is this one is already ready to go. So you can kind of put it in there. If you need to thin it out a little bit, they have what's called, Createx makes a thing called, I don't know if you can see it. It's called a reducer, but what it does is it just kind of thins that paint down a little bit so that it flows a lot better through the airbrush. So
Got it. You
can also use a reducer with the regular acrylic paint. And so you'll be saving a lot of money, and you can have a rainbow as your colors or something for, I don't know, 20, 30 bucks worth of paint. You get the rainbow or whatever like that.
You told me to tell you it was 30 minutes.
Okay, cool.
It's 30 minutes. Cool. And Tara asked the question, can you use the same airbrush for t-shirts as you can for face paint? Yes, but not the same paint. That's for sure.
Did she mean the same paint or the same airbrush?
Airbrush.
So yeah, in my mind, I would say it's okay. I think the problem happens is that when it comes to cleaning, if you don't do a great job of cleaning that airbrush after you've done a, let's say you've done body painting or whatever like that, the solvent needed for to break down that body paint is, of course, alcohol. And so that's fine. You know what I'm saying? If you're able to run that through there, you're able to get it nice and clean or whatever like that. But if you leave that alcohol-based paint in there and then you all of a sudden stick some acrylic paint up in there, then you got what's called a nightmare. Because alcohol really isn't enough to break down dried up acrylic paint. It's not going to work. You have to actually use like acetone or something like that to kind of eat through some of the dried up acrylic paint once it builds up in the airbrush. So you can use both, but you really gotta spend time and clean. You know, the cleaning is a headache. So that's more than likely why people would say, you know, hey, don't do this, don't do that. But if you do a great job of cleaning up, I personally don't see why it would be too bad, you know, to have airbrushes, you know, kind of doing both things. But cleaning is the headache. So like I say, if you want, you can buy like inexpensive paint. I thin it, and also, but you have to thin it and strain it. So you put the reducer in there and maybe get like I get like a strainer from the dollar store in the kitchen section. Just pour the paint through it in the bottle. Sometimes it has acrylic paint has little dry particles or whatever, and that strainer will catch it. And then it's good to go for your airbrush. So I'm done talking about all of the parts that I need to. Oh, one other thing before we start. When you're doing your manifold, when you put your quick connects on the manifold, you want to grab some like Teflon tape. This one is actually for like gas lines, but you can use the one for gas line, water line, air line. I don't think it makes too much of a difference because there's no flammable gas coming through there. But the only thing that it does when you wrap it around, it makes a nice little sealant around, so no excess air is coming through any parts that aren't meeting or whatever like that. On your so make sure you have some Teflon tape. All right, so we're ready to kind of start diving in. I'm going to talk about something real quick about practice. So this is the T-shirt board. I kind of modified it today for today's practice. Paper towel is your friend when it comes to practicing, because you can see you can practice forever on this. So not ever, but you got a lot more room than grabbing T-shirts and trying to practice on T-shirts. So only thing I do is I stretch it. I put like a little toggle bolt, wall anchor on the back of it. You can, or a nut, or what is it? Nut and washer or whatever like that. But just something that kind of bolts it on the back, so that as you're going, you can just kind of stretch the paper towel across and kind of just keep on going and keep on practicing. So now we're going to break down into some practice techniques that can help you to kind of help you in your designs. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna set up real quick. I'm gonna turn everything this way. Make sure I'm. Cut my compressor back on so that I'm ready to go.
Okay.
So I'm gonna speak up as best I can. Be a little loud. Airbrushes down. We're bringing the airbrushes around so I can. Forgot to talk about Airbrush Cleaner. So Airbrush has a cleaner solvent when you're dealing with alcohol. I'm sorry, not alcohol, acrylic paint. So make sure you grab some Airbrush Cleaner. Back in the day, I didn't have a lot of money, and we used to use Windex as an airbrush cleaner. It works great, but get some airbrush cleaner. It's not expensive. But back when I first started, we didn't have a lot of money, but we just used what we could and what we knew. So let me bring my airbrushes around, and we're going to talk about a couple of techniques. So, 1 second. So, okay, so like I say, we talked about the little setup. Like I said, I just got a little paper towel holder, tacked it on the back of here, and got a couple little, you can grab some little clips from the dollar store, real cheap. You can use clothespins or whatever, and it don't have to be, industrial strength clips to do this. So, extra, run it around. So the reason that I do paper towel is because it's comparable to the texture of a T-shirt. So if you're spraying too hard and too much paint is coming out of the airbrush on a T-shirt, it's going to be the same thing as here. So they kind of wick up just about the same capacity at the same amount of time. So it's a good practice medium to kind of work with while you're trying some things out. So the first thing. Give me 1 second, guys. I got to put my air hose in. I was showing all my parts. I took everything apart for y'all.
Someone asked, have you ever used a CO2 tank at a party?
Okay, so this is my fear. I do a lot of different things. So I will probably have a tendency to leave a dang CO2 tank in the car while I'm running to Walmart on a super hot day. And I'm scared that when I come back, I'll have a sunroof or shot out the back of the car, and probably a couple other cars, in the course of it, expelling all the air. I don't say it's a bad thing. It's just me. You know what I'm saying? There are people who do. Maybe you're a little bit more aware of certain things. But like I said, I do so many different things. Like I may have a T-shirt event in the morning, and then I'm doing balloons later on. I forgot, and I got the CO2 tank in the car. It's hot or whatever. I just don't want that. It is possible. It is. You can do it. You know what I'm saying? You can do it safely. It's just I I don't do it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Right.
So I'm just saying it's bad. Slap your finger, slap your hand, or whatever like that. It's just I don't do it because
Sure.
I'm a little negligent in that way, and I view it as a hazard. But never had a compressor blow up or shoot out the back of my car. So work with that. Okay, so a couple of first things we want to work on. We want to work on some techniques that help you to work on a couple of techniques that help you to kind of build up your hand strength and build up your ability to do a range of different things as far as design. So I got a little bit of black paint kind of in here. Let's see if I can bring it a little closer so you guys can kind of see. Got my nice sturdy easel so I don't have to worry about it moving and doing crazy things. So the first thing we want to work on is dots. Working on the ability to do different size dots and different opacities with the dots. So you want to be able to learn how to control it to do small dots, and you can kind of see those. Medium-sized dots, big dots, all with the same airbrush. Just a matter of just moving the trigger back at a different point. So you're able to master that. So you want to be able to make several little small dots across a sheet of paper to be able to build up that level of control. Once you do your dots, then we're going to work on lines. We're going to do thin lines. To be able to do some thin lines, thicker lines, like that, and very thick lines. All these things you want to be able to learn how to control and be able to do at any given moment when you're doing your designs.
That's a good exercise.
Yeah, so working on your thin lines can help you with your lettering. And when you're doing the next part is like what's called a dagger stroke. So hopefully, I believe I'm speaking to a number of face painters. So the comparable term in airbrush and from face painting, like we do teardrops for our designs and our work, it's called a dagger stroke. Dagger stroke is a term in airbrush. So when we're going from thick to thin, so what I would do is take a little ruler, kind of make a line, couple little lines for just to kind of practice on a little bit of space. So I got a little Sharpie marker. And do something like this. Just make two quick lines. And we take this space and we work on what's called our dagger strokes. So dagger strokes, like I say, just like in face painting, we're going from thick to thin. So what that means is when I start, I'm starting all the way back with a lot of paint, and I'm going to gradually move my finger forward, and I'm shutting off the amount of paint that's flowing out of there. So what I do is I'll start with So I'm going to try to tilt my airbrush a little bit so you guys can kind of see. But I'll start here on the bottom, kind of work my way. So you want to be able to go from thin to thick.
Sure.
And go back down out the way. So, like I said, with this paper towel, you can practice for days. You got multiple different spots. You can work on some different things. So practicing your dagger strokes sets you up for doing things like your stars. So like maybe you're doing a name design and you want to do a star. So you got a star for a name. So just practicing these dagger strokes can help you to kind of, like I say, work on little embellishments and different designs and stuff like that for your shirts. All right. How much time I got left, Blake? Probably about what, 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, you got 17 minutes.
Oh, cool. So we're ready to dive into a t-shirt. So hopefully,
What kind of paper towel are you using? Someone said Viva's good.
This is the cheapest brand of paper towel I could get at Walmart. So
Okay.
you can get bouncy if you want to. It doesn't make a difference. I mean, it doesn't, because if you're spraying and you mess it up and make a hole through it.
Another question is, Summer Carter asked, does holding your other hand under help with balance and accuracy?
Yes, for me. So in the same way, like when you're face painting and you got that brush and you got your pinky on the kid's face, and you're kind of working things around. For me, I don't just kind of spray like this. It's kind of like, just like I guess like how the police officer will hold a gun. You know what I'm saying? You get a little bit more of your stance and your position. You can kind of work grip it a lot tighter, and kind of as you position your body, you kind of turn when you're making your lines and stuff like that. So for me, it's a lot more of a steadier kind of thing than just kind of doing like this. But it depends on what you're doing. Like you can just if you wanted to make a circle freehand or whatever like that, it's not something that you gotta have your hand on or whatever like that.
Right.
It's all so particular style. Like I said, whatever worked for you, whatever worked for you. If you can get this right by holding it and doing this or whatever like that, or get your lines or whatever, all means. But I think it gives you a stronger. I don't even know what I would want to call the word.
More control.
You get more control just by kind of having like this for up and down, and kind of turning your body when you're doing like your horizontal stroke. So
let's get to some T-shirts now. We've gotten all this.
Yes, cool. So hopefully you guys feel like you got a bunch of different things from this so far. Hopefully you learned some stuff. So let's have this off. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about before I dive in there is this name designs. We got about 17 minutes. The first thing about when you go to a party, like I say, it helps people to feel very personal when you're able to come out with a shirt with your name on it. Yes, my name's Stiles. Makes you feel really, really great about having something with your name on it or whatever. So being able to do that for people is awesome. Starting out, everybody may not have the best handwriting. So there's different little techniques that you can kind of do to kind of work around some stuff. There is cursive. You can do things in cursive, but like I say, when I first started out, my cursive wasn't amazing. So this is something that can kind of work for anybody. It's kind of like what I would call like a scratch technique, but it's based off just using thin lines. So I'm gonna do the name Tim. Hope you guys can kind of see.
Mm-hmm.
The name Tim. So I'm gonna go. We're just doing the neck. Look backwards on here. We're just doing like a little scratchy letter technique. You can just spell the name Tim out, and that's fine. You do like something special, so like a little circle around there. Put a couple little.
What's your favorite name to paint? Ask Thomas.
My favorite name?
Yeah.
Favorite name to airbrush?
Yeah. Just a random question. With letter shapes, what sort of shape letters do you like the best? Maybe that's a better way to say it.
So lettering techniques. I like cursive. My cursive isn't the world's greatest. I mean, there's people that can definitely do it circles around me, but I have gotten to a point where I love it. So it just depends upon who and what, you know what I'm saying? So just like in doing face painting, you develop a skill, and you have to kind of build upon that. So you may do a regular job of face painting, but when the CEOs bring his daughter around, you're going to embellish a little bit more. So you get to pop out some different skills. So just having a bunch of those skills in your holster sets you up for success. So just knowing how to run through and do different things. So this is like just a regular scratchy technique. Then you can do a name in cursive. Let's try a name like Beth.
You know, that looks pretty good.
So you can do that real quick. Like I say, you can be knocking out shirts in less than a minute. So you can put cursive on there. You can fatten up some spots or whatever like that. But it takes time. Like I say, I may make it look easy or whatever like that, but it definitely takes time and working on your lettering technique and finding a font that works for you. Cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys a T-shirt, and but yeah, this is what you can do. Like I say, you can do some different things.
Right.
You know,
I mean, the way you can do shading with airbrush has always been sort of the big attraction.
You could do so many things so quickly, and it just whatever. This is crazy.
Right.
So let me get this down. I'll get a T-shirt up here, and then we're gonna rock and roll. So I was planning on showing you guys a name design on a T-shirt, but since I kind of did a name design already on the paper towel. Oh, real quick, I'm gonna show you how to hook up a T-shirt on your T-shirt board, because this is important. So I'm gonna take these. I got a little clothespins from the dollar store. Like I said, again, nothing that's super industrial strength or whatever like that. Slide your T-shirt on the back of the shirt, on the back of the board. First thing I do is I pin my sleeves together, so that kind of stretches it across in the back like that. That draws it kind of tight across the front. Fold the excess under the bottom, just like that. And then I got my extra clothespins. Bring it taut a little bit. Pull everything taut so it's nice and smooth. Now this T-shirt came out of a pack, so it's kind of
got some wrinkles.
Formed itself in that pack. Typically, like Gildan shirts or whatever like that, they're already laid out and folded in a certain way. So typically, I would use it. Wouldn't be like this. It would be a little bit more, a little bit flatter. All right, so let's talk about this. So I'm gonna. Another great thing is trying. I cut this out myself, little rinky dink stencil out of Mylar.
We got about 9 minutes, just so you know.
Okay, cool. Cut this out of Mylar. Mylar is a stencil material. You can grab it at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or whatever like that. You can cut it yourself. You could throw it through a Cricut, get you some great designs or whatever like that. Make positives and negatives out of it. But just for the sake of this, I'm gonna show you something real quick. It's only got a few minutes left. Oh, another great thing is spray adhesive. So this works really, really good when you're doing stencils. So let me spray it. What you do is just spray a little bit on the back of it, let it dry wave it around, let it dry for a half a second, and then you're able to stick it on your shirt. Let me just spray something real quick. Give me 1 second, I'm sorry. I sprayed a little bit on there, kind of wave it around, let it dry. Make sure you let it dry. Other than that, it's going to end up leaving the glue actually on the T-shirt itself. So it'll kind of like little spots of glue, and we don't want that. We just want it to be able to be just dry enough, just like tape, so that it's able to stick on there.
Right.
Take it. Put a little stencil on there. It's like a little freestyle stencil that I cut out. Got a little bit of pink.
So what kind of designs do you find are popular for T-shirts?
So for anybody that's starting out, I would definitely recommend simple more than anything. So having a couple of stencils with you, maybe you got a unicorn head or a Fortnite logo or something like that. Something you can do kind of quick, because this it's all about quick until you're able to really build a style. Like I'm just trying to think something comparable, like someone like a Marcella Bustamante when it comes to face painting. You see some of the great things that they post and that they, whatever. probably can't really, you probably, maybe an average painter can't really start out trying to whip that out in like 4 or 5 minutes at the party. It might take us like 10, 15, 20 trying to do it. So trying to focus on some simple things to build some techniques is kind of like key. But like having a rainbow for like little kids, having a rainbow, getting really good at doing like name designs or whatever like that, or like I said, unicorn head, or just something popular. You can really look up clip art, or you can look up what is it, like, is it 2D, like 2D art or whatever like that. And if you have a silhouette, you can easily turn it into a stencil and knock it out in a heartbeat. But and even knowing what the mom and dad want for the party. Maybe they invited you to a Mickey and Minnie party, so you can make a couple Mickey and Minnie stencils to kind of do for your T-shirt or Fortnite party, whatever. So just knowing what's to come on that party can help you to kind of set some things up to be ready for what's popular. I wouldn't say give them the world. Like, I'm pretty sure most face painters, you know what I'm saying, you do a word board. You kind of narrow some things down to maybe like about 10 designs. For airbrush T-shirts, I probably even narrow down even more to maybe like 4 or 5, maybe two or four for boys. And, you know, if you feel compelled, like you're at a point where maybe you can offer something different, like, hey, I want a kid come say, hey, maybe I want a star on my shirt versus the Fortnite logo. Right. You practice enough to know how to maybe do a 6-point star and make it work. You know what I'm saying? But it's skills that you kind of build on top of each other. So just
one question came in after you do your T-shirt. Do you press it or anything, or you have to heat seal it or anything like that, or no?
So it depends upon how many people I'm dealing with. I did actually have a party for a very large company, not Crate and Barrel, was it Leo Burnett, an advertising agency here in Chicago, and they had a luau, and they wanted somebody to do airbrush T-shirts. I actually had to hire an assistant. So the assistant came and jotted everyone's name down, what they want on the shirt. Once I was done with the shirt, she took the shirt, popped it on the heat press, and was able to give that to them right away. So if you're kind of working on a fast pace, I do recommend you probably bring a heat press machine, because the paint's going to still be a little bit wet. That heat press will go ahead and help that paint to, because when you're airbrushing, particles from paint kind of just come right onto the T-shirt. But when you heat press, it'll actually begin to meld that paint into the fibers of the shirt a heck of a lot more, a heck of a lot better, and it has a better time of being more durable if you kind of heat press it, or at least if they take it home, like once the paint is dry, they take it home and pop it in the dryer. It'll help to kind of blend that paint into the fabric a bit more. But if you're at a party, you got 10 kids, you're spraying the shirts, you want to lay it out on the table, whatever, it's going to dry, it's going to be fine. But if you're working in a faster pace, I do recommend you probably spend that money and get one. I actually got mine from a pawn shop for like, I don't know, 70, 80 bucks or whatever like that, a large used one. So check around. I'm a very big fan of trying to find a good deal on some used equipment if it still works really, really good. So yeah, let me knock this out real quick. So using the stencil, I'm gonna hit it with some orange.
And what do you charge for T-shirts? Or do you charge per person at the party or per T-shirt?
So, okay, so this is how it kind of break down. If I were going to do a party, I'm asking mom, okay, how many children are you expecting at the party? Okay, 14 kids. Cool. Okay, you want me to pick up the shirts? I get 14 T-shirts. So I got kind of control and I know what it is. I would say I'm charging anywhere between $10 and $15 a shirt. On top of the mom purchasing the shirts as well. Okay, so, and like I say, if you get 10 to 15 shirts, it's really not going to be that much. It's probably going to get it wholesale. Heck, I'll probably end up getting it for like 20 bucks, you know what I'm saying, plus shipping or whatever. So it's not really a huge expense on top of it. But anywhere between 10 to 15 bucks a shirt, and it depends upon your skill level. So like, just like in face painting, you know, if you're not the greatest, you probably shouldn't be charging $150 an hour. You know, maybe we all start out with 60 bucks, you know, like we, you know, did and kind of work our way up. So as your skill increases for your designs and things you're able to offer, heck, boost that boy up to the ceiling. If you're able to customize and you know you how to make stencils for that Fortnite party, that's another skill set that you have on top of everything that you do. So tack that on. 15 bucks a shirt, something like that.
Okay. Another question was, do you have to clean the paint out of the brush after each T-shirt?
No. No. Once it's in there, it's in there. So real quick, we got our shirt. Take our stencil off. Like I say, I know it took me 10 minutes to do this, but literally at a party, it wouldn't take that long. But just to kind of show you, hey, you're able to do some different things. And like I say, you can put the person's name across. Something real quick, and we can go back around and do some different things. Another little technique. Now, just building up little techniques and stuff like that, little tips and tricks to help you to kind of make your shirts a little more unique or whatever like that. What I love about airbrushing is it's just so very random. So I make a little pinch spray technique that I do. So I take the T-shirt apart, kind of. And what I do is I grab the shirt like this and spray. A little tie-dye effect.
Ah, cool.
Just grab and spray all your different colors. So you can take that and do different things. Like I said, you can do anything. You can run a couple more stencils around and do whatever. But this just kind of show you a couple of different techniques. Just something different, something to make Tim happy or Susie happy at an event or whatever like that. And like I said, you can do your stars or a number of little different things or whatever like that to make Tim happy or like I say, Susie happy, whatever you got going on at your event. So, but it's like the sky's the limit. You don't have to feel like you're boxed into doing a certain style or whatever like that. You can actually just you can wing it. Oh, but something that I did, something that's very, very different in comparison to doing this versus like face painting or whatever like that. When you make a mistake,
you cannot fix it.
It's a little permanent, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a little permanent. Sometimes you can't just add a little bit of white paint and kind of cover. Sometimes you can't add a little bit of white paint and cover. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So you really have to really got to spend a lot of time with the medium and kind of feel better about, you know, like we talked about troubleshooting. When the airbrush is starting to act up, you kind of know, but there are things that can cause the airbrush to actually sputter. And one of the biggest things that I've made a mistake. I was young and doing airbrushing. So one thing that's very important is, I'm trying to see if I got one that I can kind of show you. Right on the top of this, little, right on the top of this top is like a little air hole. And so sometimes what happens is when the paint is being jostled around, paint will make it up around the air hole and it'll harden and it'll restrict. So airbrush is all about pressure. Air has to come in through this little hole to allow for the pressure to build up in order to kind of send the paint through the little tube inside. But if this air hole is clogged, pressure builds up in here. So eventually what'll happen is you'll begin to wonder why, you know, paint isn't coming out like it's supposed to. And you go to take the airbrush off of the off of the paint, and it starts just shooting everywhere because pressure builds up, just like a little soda can. So it is a potential for, like I say, we really got to spend some time and talk about troubleshooting, so that you guys are really aware of some things to kind of look out for before you start taking your airbrush to a party. I would say don't. It's not something you want to rush. Spend some time with it. Practice on numbers of paper towels until you, like you said, you got your name design, your lettering, all that stuff, just the way you like it, just the way you want it. So it may not be perfect, but it's good enough to get out there and get some things going. So when you're ready for that point, you're good. But definitely.
Okay. Well, the time flew by. Everybody wants to go for another couple hours, but sadly we can't. But thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much for joining me. We've got we got a bunch of webinars coming up. So if you go to our webinar page on FacePaint.com, you'll see what we got going on. We got some exciting people coming up, and we have basically every Monday till December scheduled. And we have Ilse Kuster's Magical Fairies, and then we have after that we have Sally Ann. Although Sally Ann, I think we got the wrong date on this thing. And then we have Marcella Bustamante for Airbrush Tattoos. So we have that as well. So coming up. So keep aware of that. And you guys have a good evening and a good day. And we've got a 35% off on Craze Face Paint if you want to do that on FacePaint.com. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us. I hope you guys enjoy watching on YouTube and all the rest. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Eric.
No problem, guys. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.